My fiancée lied about wanting kids and cheated behind my back, so I ended it silently and left her dream life in ruins forever. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and for the longest time, I truly believed I'd found the woman who shared the same dream I did. A home full of love, a couple of messy toddlers running around, and the kind of quiet stability I never had growing up. Her name was Lauren. She was smart, charming, the type who could light up a room without even trying. We met through mutual friends at a holiday party, and within weeks we were inseparable. I remember how early on, maybe our third or fourth date, we had this long late-night conversation in her car about our future. She told me she wanted 2 kids, maybe 3. A golden retriever. A white fence. She said it like it was already real in her heart. I told her that's what I wanted too, more than anything. To be the kind of dad mine never was. And she just reached over, took my hand, and said, "We'll build that together." God, I believed her. For the next year, everything felt right. We moved in together. I worked long hours at my marketing firm while she launched her online art business. I covered most of the bills happily. She said she just needed time to stabilize financially. That was fine with me. I saw it as investing in our future. Every now and then, she'd say things like, "When we have our little girl, I want her to have my eyes and your patience." And I'd laugh, saying, "If she has your sass, we're doomed." It felt so real. Like we were building something from scratch. Bricks made of trust, laughter, late-night grocery runs, whispered baby names. But now, looking back, I wonder how early the cracks really started to form. We moved into a small 2-bedroom condo just outside the city. It wasn't fancy, but it had a little balcony, warm morning light, and a second room we both jokingly called the nursery, even before it had a crib. At first, it held boxes, old canvases, and forgotten furniture. But I'd glance in there sometimes, imagining a baby blanket over the rocking chair. She once caught me doing that and just smiled. "Someday," she whispered. I was in deep. And honestly, I didn't want to be anywhere else. Lauren was soft-spoken but witty. She'd leave little sticky notes in my lunch bag, drawings of animals, funny doodles, random "I love yous." She made me feel seen. Like all the effort I was putting in, the long hours, the budgeting, the compromise, it was worth it. We had routines. Sunday brunches at the corner diner, Wednesday night takeout and bad reality TV, evenings where she'd lie on the floor sketching while I worked on spreadsheets at the table. It was calm, predictable, the kind of life that makes you feel safe. I started putting more money into savings, cut down on big purchases, took on extra freelance work. She didn't ask me to. I just figured if we wanted kids soon, I should prepare. One night I asked, "When do you think we should start trying?" She laughed and said, "Let's at least be married first, overachiever." I remember thinking, yeah, fair point. But her eyes didn't light up the way they usually did when we talked about our future. I brushed it off as stress. She'd had a slow month with commissions, and I didn't want to push. Still, it was the first time I felt her pull away, even if only for a second. And seconds like that have a way of echoing. By the time we'd been living together for 2 years, the conversation about marriage wasn't even mine to start anymore. It was hers. Lauren would leave bridal magazines open on the coffee table, accidentally playing proposal videos on TikTok loud enough for me to hear. She'd make comments like, "My friend Jenna's boyfriend just proposed after a year. Can you believe that?" And then glance at me over her wine glass with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I wasn't opposed to it. In fact, I'd already been saving for a ring. But I wanted the timing to feel right. We'd been planning and talking about our future since that first car ride, and it seemed only natural to take the next step. So one chilly February evening, under the string lights at the same little cafe where we had our first date, I got down on one knee. She gasped, clapped her hands over her mouth, and said, "Finally!" before I even finished the question. It was loud and messy and joyful. Strangers clapped. I felt like the luckiest man alive. The next day, she posted the engagement photos everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, even sent them to my mom. Captions like "My forever person" and "Can't wait to start our family." It all looked perfect. But when I tried to talk to her about an actual timeline, where we'd live long term, when we'd start trying for kids, she changed the subject. "Let's just get through the wedding first," she said. "One thing at a time." She began spending hours scrolling Pinterest boards for color palettes and centerpiece ideas, but every time I brought up the nursery, she'd frown slightly. "Don't rush it," she'd say. "We're still young." Her words were calm, but her tone carried something new, a hint of irritation. I told myself it was wedding stress. But the seed of doubt was planted, and I could feel it growing. It was subtle at first. Nothing big enough to point at, just a shift. Lauren used to wrap her arms around me when I came home late. Now she barely looked up from her phone. She used to laugh at my bad jokes, the kind that made her snort unexpectedly. Now she'd give a tired smirk and say, "You really think you're funny, huh?" We stopped having breakfast together. She started sleeping in later, going to bed earlier. Her girls' nights became weekly, then weekends. "You trust me, right?" she'd ask with a pout. And of course I did, or thought I did. One night, I walked past the bathroom and heard her whispering into her phone with the door locked. I paused. Something about the tone, playful, hushed, flirty, made my stomach turn. When I asked who it was later, she rolled her eyes. "God, you're paranoid." "It was Emma. She's going through a breakup." I said okay, because I wanted to believe her. Because if I didn't, I'd have to start asking questions I wasn't ready to hear answers to. Our intimacy dwindled. She always had a reason. Cramps, stress, too tired, not in the mood. I didn't push. I just started noticing how she looked at her phone more than she looked at me. One night I brought up kids again, gently. "After the wedding," I said, "maybe we can start trying." She stared at the TV and mumbled, "Why are you obsessed with breeding me?" She said it like a joke, but it didn't feel like one. I sat there, stunned, while she laughed and reached for her wine. And in that moment, I felt something shift in me too. It was the first time I didn't see us as a team, and the silence between us suddenly felt permanent. A few weeks later, Lauren told me she was starting therapy. She said she was feeling burnt out and needed help navigating her emotions. I was supportive and even proud. I told her therapy was healthy, brave, necessary. I believed that. But then, after just 2 sessions, she came home one night and said something that shattered everything. "I don't think I ever really wanted kids," she said, standing in the kitchen, stirring pasta like she hadn't just nuked my entire life plan in a single sentence. At first, I laughed. I thought she was testing a thought out loud. But she didn't laugh with me. She just kept stirring. I blinked at her, waiting for the punchline that never came. You said from the beginning." "I know what I said," she cut in. But I think I was just trying to convince myself. "I didn't want to lose you." The room went quiet. The pasta bubbled over. "I didn't even move." "You lied?" I asked softly. She sighed, finally turning toward me. "No, I didn't lie. I just hoped I'd feel differently by now. But I don't." It felt like someone kicked my chest in. Every name we brainstormed, every passing baby stroller we smiled at, every time we joked about our kids being little weirdos, it all twisted into something grotesque. "You planned a future with me based on something you hoped would change?" I asked. She shrugged. "People grow," I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask how the hell she could look me in the eyes for 3 years and pretend we were building the same life. But instead I said nothing. I just nodded and said, "Thanks for telling me." Then I excused myself to take out the trash, but really, I just needed to breathe, because that night, something inside me broke clean in half. And for the first time, I didn't know who I was building my life with anymore. After that night, something in me went cold. Not angry. Not explosive. Just cold. I didn't fight her. Didn't beg. I told her I appreciated her honesty and that I needed time to think. And from that moment on, I started watching everything. Her tone, her schedule, her eyes when she looked at me. I played along, smiled, kissed her goodnight. Went through the motions like nothing had changed. But inside I was already packing mental boxes. She seemed relieved by my silence, maybe even proud of her growth. She told her therapist I was being more emotionally mature lately. Meanwhile, I was checking her laptop browser history while she showered. I didn't want to become that guy, but I had a feeling, the kind that grabs you by the ribs and squeezes, and then I found it. A hidden folder on her desktop, tucked deep inside another folder labeled Finances. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. Photos, screenshots, long, emotional email chains between her and someone named Ethan. I miss you so much. Thinking about last weekend. I hate pretending with him. The timestamps hit harder than the words. This wasn't new. Some messages dated back to before I proposed. There were pictures of them at a winery. She told me it was a girls' trip. Photos of them in a hotel bed, dated the same weekend she claimed she was visiting her sick aunt. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just stared at the screen, hand frozen on the mouse, watching the woman I loved become a stranger in real time. She came out of the shower, towel in her hair, kissed my cheek, and asked if I wanted Thai or sushi, and all I could think was, I'm sleeping next to someone who already left me. She just hasn't packed her bags yet. I stayed up that night reading every single email between Lauren and Ethan. It was like peeling the skin off my own memories. Every sweet moment I thought we had, every holiday, every date night, every inside joke, had a shadow version running in the background. A second life where I was nothing but a placeholder. She told him I was obsessed with starting a family, that I kept pushing for babies like I owned her uterus. She said I was controlling, emotionally stifling, boring. Ethan replied like he was her savior. You don't need to be a mom if you don't want to. You're meant for more than that suburban nightmare. He called me the spreadsheet guy. She laughed. She laughed at me. They had code names for me. She called me the planner. He called me dad dealer. They made fun of our future kids, said they'd be weird little robots with budget binders. My heart didn't just break. It curled inward, but still I didn't confront her. Not yet, because now, I didn't just want the truth. I wanted every single piece of it. I started taking screenshots, backing up folders to an external drive. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew I had to move carefully. She was asleep on the couch when I finished. TV still playing, wine glass half full, her phone face down. I looked at her, the woman I once wanted to build my entire life with, and I felt nothing but hollow. Like someone had cut me open and left the shell behind. The next morning, she made pancakes, kissed me on the neck, said, "You've been so quiet lately. I'm glad you're finally chill," I smiled. Because that's when I realized she thought I was defeated, but I wasn't. I was just getting started. People expect anger when you're betrayed. A broken plate. A screaming match. Something loud, but me? I went silent. I didn't even ask her about Ethan, didn't hint that I knew. Instead, I started planning. Every move calculated, every word measured. First, I backed up all the evidence, the emails, photos, hotel bookings, audio messages, to both cloud and offline drives. I created a private folder labeled Legal Prep and uploaded everything. Then I met with a lawyer. Quietly, carefully. The house? It was in my name. The prenup? Still unsigned. She kept saying we'd get around to it, that it's not romantic to talk about divorce before the wedding. Lucky for me, we never got around to it. I began untangling our finances. Removed her from the joint savings account. Closed the shared credit card. Changed online passwords she didn't even notice. She was too busy sending wedding invites and designing calligraphy for table numbers. Next, I told her I wanted to plan a surprise honeymoon. Said I needed some of her personal info for the travel agent. She giggled and handed me everything. Her passport scan, flight preferences, even her travel reward login. She thought I was trying to rekindle the romance. I was preparing her exit. Every morning I kissed her forehead. Every night I said I love you like I meant it. Not because I still did, but because I needed her calm. She thought she had me wrapped around her finger. And honestly, that was perfect, because when it came time to leave, I didn't want her to see it coming. I didn't want tears or explanations. I wanted her to feel what I had felt for months, blindsided, silent, alone. Just when I thought I had everything under control, Lauren threw me a curveball that knocked the air out of my chest. She walked into the kitchen one morning, holding a coffee mug with both hands like it was some sacred relic, and said, "So, I might be pregnant. I swear the walls closed in. We hadn't been intimate in weeks, maybe longer." I tried to keep my face still, voice calm. "Really, are you sure?" She shrugged too casually. "I missed my period. I haven't taken a test yet. Thought we could do it together." Then she reached out and touched my chest. Maybe it's fate. Fate! I nearly laughed and or screamed. Because if she was pregnant, I knew in my gut it wasn't mine, but I didn't flinch. I nodded slowly, said, "Yeah, let's grab a test later." She smiled, relieved, and went back to scrolling her phone. I excused myself and sat in the car for 20 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying not to hyperventilate. Was this part of her plan? Trap me in the marriage she clearly didn't believe in anymore? Tie me down with a baby, possibly Ethan's, so she could secure her place in my life, my home, my finances? I couldn't prove anything yet. But now the clock was ticking. I bought her the test that night. She suddenly didn't want to take it. Said she was too nervous, maybe tomorrow. I told her I understood. I held her while she fake cried on my shoulder, and that night I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking one thing. If she's willing to lie about this, what else is she capable of? Because whatever game she was playing, it just hit a whole new level, and I knew I needed to end it. But only when the timing was perfect. After the pregnancy bombshell, I stopped sleeping. My mind raced constantly. What if she was pregnant? What if she wasn't? What if she knew I knew, and this was her way of locking me in before I could act? I needed answers, real ones. So I dug deeper. Her emails had one thread with Ethan that mentioned a last name. It was casual, something like, "Tell your sister Morgan I love the cookies." But it was enough. I searched, cross-referenced, and finally found him. Ethan Rowe, local musician, used to live 2 states away. Recently moved back. Public Instagram full of moody lyrics and shirtless mirror selfies, and that's when it hit me. Lauren's girls' trip the month before? That weekend lined up perfectly with Ethan's tagged post at a mountain resort nearby. Same dates, same resort. I created a burner Instagram and messaged him. Just one line and a screenshot. "You sure she's not lying to both of us?" No response. For 2 days. Then out of nowhere, he replied, "Who is this?" I sent him more. The engagement photos, her social media posts, a copy of our save the date card. Silence again. Then, WF, she told me you were her crazy ex, that you were stalking her. She said you threatened her if she didn't stay quiet. I didn't know she was still with you. My hands were shaking. I asked him if she ever mentioned kids. He said, "Yeah, she told me she had her tubes tied. Said she never wanted to be a mom." That night I stared at the ceiling again. It wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just cheating. It was layers of lies stacked so high they could crush a person. I wasn't even sure which version of her was real anymore. But I knew one thing now for certain. Ethan and I weren't enemies. We were both just props in her perfect little performance. And the final act was coming. After Ethan's messages, something in me snapped into place. No more doubt. No more "maybe I'm overthinking." I had confirmation. And that meant it was time to finalize the plan. I installed a hidden camera in the living room. Nothing fancy, just a motion-activated plug-in cam disguised as an air purifier. I told her it was a new smart filter for allergy season. She barely looked at it. What I captured confirmed everything. She wasn't even subtle anymore. She'd paced the living room on speakerphone, giggling into her calls. I heard her tell Ethan, "He's still playing house like a good little husband?" Then she laughed. She actually laughed. I might fake the pregnancy a little longer. Keep him distracted. More laughter. One afternoon, while I was working from the office, she had Ethan over. Right there in our home. Our couch. The one we picked out together. I didn't cry when I watched it. I didn't feel anger anymore either. Just a numb, icy clarity. I kept collecting footage. Days of it. Voice recordings, screen captures, phone backups. I even got a shot of her writing in a notebook. A list titled, "What I'll Say If He Finds Out." It had actual bullet points. Like she was prepping for a job interview. When she looked at me during dinner that week and said, "We make such a great team," I nearly choked, but I smiled. Because I wasn't a team anymore. I was an audience, watching the final act of a performance I never signed up for. She thought I was stupid, passive, that I wouldn't walk away, but I wasn't staying out of love anymore. I was staying to make sure the fallout hit exactly the right people. And in exactly the right way, and once it did, there'd be no warning. Just silence. And then the collapse. Just when I thought she couldn't twist the knife any deeper, she found a way to drag my name through the mud. right in front of the people who mattered most. It started with small things. My mom stopped texting as much. My sister canceled dinner plans last minute, said she was busy with work but sounded distant. My dad, who rarely ever called, suddenly wanted to check in on me like I was unstable. I didn't understand it at first, until my cousin sent me a screenshot of a message Lauren had sent her. It was a long paragraph, full of weaponized vulnerability. She claimed I was emotionally abusive, that I pressured her into wanting kids, that I manipulated her fertility choices and didn't respect her autonomy. She said she was scared to leave me, that I'd threatened to ruin her career if she broke off the engagement. She even included a line that said, "If anything happens to me, please just know I tried." It read like the opening scene of a Lifetime movie. And the worst part? Some people believed her, people I grew up with. Family I had protected, supported, paid rent for, helped through divorces, all suddenly viewing me through suspicious eyes. I confronted my mom. She didn't deny it. "She's going through something," she said gently. "Maybe you were a little intense about the future." A little intense. That's what my years of hope and planning were now. Intensity. I hung up. Sat in my car outside a grocery store. Watched a young dad lifting his kid into a cart seat and nearly broke down. Not because I lost Lauren, but because I realized I'd lost years to someone who'd poisoned my life from the inside out. And at that moment, something in me finally snapped. No more playing nice? No more subtle. She wanted to ruin my name? Fine, let's both live with the truth then. 2 days before the wedding, she was glowing. Floating through the apartment in a silk robe, humming to herself, rehearsing her vows in front of the mirror like we were some fairy tale couple. I stood in the hallway and watched her. This woman who had lied to my face, mocked me behind my back, dragged my name through the dirt, and still had the audacity to look blissful. She didn't know what was coming. That night, while she was out at her final girls' night, I packed my things, quietly, deliberately. I took my clothes, my documents, the hard drive with all the evidence, every screenshot, every video, every backup. I left the ring box on the kitchen counter with a sticky note inside. It just said, "I know everything." Then I did something she never expected. I scheduled an email. It was addressed to her, her parents, her bridesmaids, my parents, and Ethan. The subject line read, "Before you walk down the aisle, know this." Inside were attachments. Dozens of them. Photos. Voice. Recordings. Screenshots. A folder titled, "The Real Lauren." I scheduled it to send at 7 a.m., the exact time. She'd be waking up to get her makeup. Done. Then I drove 3 hours away and checked into a quiet Airbnb near the lake. At exactly 7:02 a.m., my phone started buzzing nonstop. Calls, messages, missed FaceTimes. Some from her, some from her mom. One from Ethan. I didn't answer any of them. I just sat on the cabin porch, coffee in hand, watching the sun rise through the trees, peaceful for the first time in months. Lauren's entire illusion had collapsed in one click. No screaming. No dramatic confrontation. No begging for closure, just silence. And the truth, louder than anything she could ever say. The aftermath was instant and brutal. The wedding was officially canceled by noon. The venue manager called me to confirm, said Lauren had a personal emergency and wouldn't give details. Friends started texting, asking what was going on. Some were kind. Others were nosy. A few were furious. They'd already flown in. By the end of the day, our shared wedding website was deleted. Her Pinterest boards went private. And her social media? Silent. Not a single post. But she couldn't delete what had already been seen. People were sharing the screenshots. Some of our mutual friends, the ones who'd always thought she was too good to be true, messaged me privately and said they were sorry for ever doubting me. Her perfect image cracked overnight. Ethan? He blocked her, completely. No messages, no response. Apparently, once he saw the entire timeline, including her mocking his music behind his back, he realized she'd been using both of us. But the worst part for her? The small art business she'd been trying to grow online started falling apart. Turns out some of the pieces she claimed were original were actually heavily inspired, as in stolen, from smaller artists. Once the scandal broke, people started digging, reporting her. Exposing her lies, her Etsy shop got flagged. 2 of her brand collabs pulled out. She went from being the quirky, lovable bride-to-be to a manipulative fraud almost overnight. I never said a word publicly. Never posted, never corrected the record. She wanted to control the narrative, and I let the truth destroy it for her. The last I heard, she moved back in with her parents. No wedding, no fiancé, no business, no Ethan, and the life she thought she'd lied her way into vanished, just like that. But I wasn't done yet. Because silence wasn't just my escape. It was my strategy. Funny how fast people change their tune when the truth hits them in the face. My mom, the same woman who said I was too intense about the future, left me a voicemail in tears. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I didn't know. I should have trusted you." She called 3 more times that week. I didn't answer. I wasn't angry. I was just done explaining myself. Even Lauren's mom reached out, sent a 3-page email with a subject line that said, "Please read, from a mother who failed her daughter." She claimed she had suspicions but didn't want to meddle. Said Lauren had always struggled with reality. Said I was the best thing that ever happened to her. Too little. Too late. The saddest one came from Lauren herself, a voicemail. Choked up, borderline unrecognizable. I messed up. I know that. I panicked. "I didn't mean to lose you." I didn't mean to lose everything. She ended it with, "I miss us." I listened once, then deleted it. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't trying to punish anyone. I just finally realized how peaceful life felt without liars in it. I moved cities. Got a new apartment with creaky floors and sunlight that poured through the windows. I started therapy, not to fix what she broke, but to rebuild what I forgot I had. Me. I picked up hobbies I'd dropped. Started running again. Slept through the night for the first time in forever. No posts. No drama, no revenge speeches. Just silence. And distance. And healing, and that silence? It said everything I needed to say, because people who once saw me as disposable were now desperate for re-entry. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I wasn't waiting for an apology. I was finally free, and I wasn't letting anyone back in. Especially not the ones who helped her light the match. I never screamed. Never slammed a door. Never threw a drink or made a scene. I just walked away. And people think that's weak. Like if you don't retaliate, you didn't really win. But here's what I've learned. Silence can be louder than rage. Disappearance can be deadlier than revenge. Lauren ruined her own life. I didn't lift a finger. All I did was stop protecting her from the consequences of her own actions. She built her dream life on a foundation of lies. And when the truth showed up, even quietly, it was enough to bring the whole thing down. People like her don't fear confrontation. They thrive in it. What they fear is exposure. What they fear most is being ignored. I don't hate her. I don't wish her harm. But I also don't wish her peace. She can sit in the stillness she created, with nothing but the echo of the life she destroyed. And as for me, I'm not bitter. I'm not broken. I'm better. Some people confuse forgiveness with re-entry. I don't. Forgiveness to me means no longer carrying their weight. It means choosing your own peace, even when no one else understands it. And closure? Closure is a choice you give yourself, not something someone hands you, so no. I didn't ruin her life. She did that all on her own. All I did was step back and let the truth do what it always does. Shine. And for the first time in a long time. That truth finally includes me. Whole, healed, and free.